how much you can trust your body's reaction?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I trust myself?
Yes.
My experience is that I cannot trust my feelings all the time, because I am feeling this and that, and you know, the next minute I'm feeling totally different. So I can't trust my bodily sensations all the time. Nope. And that is a little bit difficult actually, because when I feel so much, how can I differ? What should I listen to and what should I not listen to? How do I navigate in that?
Yeah.
That's an art actually, to navigate.
Yes. That brings me back to spiritual direction.
Yes.
That when we are here doing spiritual direction, actually we're trying to help our clients to open up different channels, and we listen to these channels with them. And sometimes it's very confusing, you know, different channels have kind of very conflicting messages.
Yes, that's true. And paradoxes, and yes.
Yeah.
So that's something we learn by, you know, by watching the process, and just learning by paying attention over a period of time.
Yes.
And walk together with somebody.
Yes. What I have in mind is, you know, sometimes we meet certain people that we don't like. The normal natural reaction is we just turn back and don't see them, you know. But is that always good for us, or for myself, or for the whole community? That's my question. I think there may be time that we approach that person. There may be time that we need to separate.
Yes. So do you know when to do one thing and when to do another? How do you know what to do?
Yeah. It's difficult, you know. That's why we need to listen, and also having some Bible insight is also important. You know, people, we have our natural inclination to hate and fight and crave for, you know, money and power, everything like that. And talk about, you know, to embrace your enemy, to be forgiving. You know, that's totally, you know, against our Adam nature.
It is.
So I think we need to listen to the Bible, listen to the voice of God, how those very ancient wisdom speaks to us, speak to our body, speak to our heart, even sometimes to the point of causing unrest, uneasiness in us. But still, we need to listen. God's message.
One thing is to embrace your enemy, but another thing is to embrace myself as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes myself, me, is my enemy, and things inside me. It's like the ancient martial art you have here from Hong Kong. You have to defeat your enemy within.
Yes.
It's sometimes difficult as well to embrace myself, or to let God embrace me.
Yes. Do we allow God to embrace ourselves?
Yes.
When we are told we need to love our enemy, do we love ourselves? Do we have the strength to embrace that very vulnerable, very fearful self before we reach out to another person?
And what happens when you receive love or embrace yourself? What happens?
What happens?
Do we dare to walk that path and see what happens.
Yes. Some people never think that they deserve love, and they don't allow themselves to be loved by others or by themselves or by God. That would be very challenging to them. And to be loved, that to admit that I need love, is a kind of sign of weakness to certain people. And to feel the touch of love, it can be very touching, and brings you a lot of tears.
Yes.
Are we willing to go to that place? Yeah.
So is that a part of bringing people home?
Yes.
To help them to open up for love? Will that also bring people home?
Yeah, I think so. I love what you said. Coming back to body is like coming home. That's kind of association. We are like, I think we are so much like the prodigal son, going away from home, and the father is just longing to see him. And he is always ready to receive us lovingly, open-handed. But we are somewhere squandering money, and it's like that. Our mind just a wandering mind, and we are not at home.
Yes. And that's another thing I think is interesting, is with the turbulent mind or the wandering mind. Because when I pay attention to my mind, I learn how my mind works, and I learn about my turbulence inside, and I learn to cope with my own turbulence. It's like the hurricane, the hurricane and the eye of the hurricane, in the middle of the hurricane, is totally silent. And that's how I experience myself. Sometimes it's chaotic and a lot of things going on. So then I may pass all this chaos and enter this silent room deep within me. And then it's easier to be in balance and to cope with the, all these things that's happening in life.
I think one thing that the inner world, why the inner world scares so many people, is that we only see the turbulence, the stormy weather, and we don't see that innermost center. It can be very peaceful, serene. You can just be at home right there with yourself, with God. We don't see that because it may take a lot of efforts to go through, to go into that. Right?
And the distractions. And if there's a lot of pain and traumatic incidents that has, that's stuck in my soul and my body, so then it's not a joyful ride.
Yes.
Through all this, darkness and all this.
I think for some people that feeling the turbulence itself is already painful enough, and it recalls a lot of painful memory, traumas that they had before, and so it all adds up on the plate and become too intense.
So do you advise them to take a break then, or to go and have a sleep, or do you advise them to try to stay there even if it's intense?
It's yes and no. I would say that because we tend to run away. So I would always invite, not command, invite my students or client to stay a little while, stay awake, be with that painful experience a little more longer. But also be aware of your limitation and to know that, okay, that's all I can do now.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to, okay, I need to have a break. I need to go out, have a cup of tea, have a movie or something like that. But you know, when I have more strength, I may come back again to visit.
Oh.
What do you think?
I think the same way. Actually, in some of my retreats, I lead retreats sometimes over 5, 6, 7 days, and then I advise somebody just to take a break and do something completely different. And if some beginners of meditation come in my workshops or retreats, they sometimes say, "Oh, I get so stressed out. This is nothing for me." And then we have to start to help. This is a normal situation to notice your chaos when you are trying to be still, and then it's difficult because I can't tell them enough is enough. I have to help them to be aware of their own limitations. It's like the body has also limitations. You can turn and twist, but then it will stop and you have to come back. And you're the only one that can know this. Or sometimes people around can say, of course, but you have to know your limitations and follow them.
Yes.
And don't look towards all the others, how they are doing. But
I don't know whether when you were leading retreats do you have other assistants to help you?
Sometimes.
I think those retreatants they may need some companion. When you are in that whirlwind, that so painful, traumatic, that you kind of like being taken out of this place and time and doing time travel to back and then, and you were like in that 10 or 20 years ago in that place of trauma. You need a very sober voice to be with you that help you grounded. You are still here. And I am your companion. I'm with you here and now. And maybe I'm also holding your hand to help you feel that you and I are in connection. You won't lose me, and I won't lose you. I hold you here, right now, in Christ. I think for those people, they need that kind of companionship. If only one person to lead, there would not be enough for those people to see, okay, I can endure it maybe for 10 seconds. At least I can endure it a little bit more with some help from another person.
Yeah, I believe it's a good thing to have a companion on retreats.
Yes,
with daily encounters, and that's important, because if you enter some traumatic things, then it's important.
Yes. Think about the presence of God. In your first book, you wrote about that. Some of the lines it goes like people trying to find God, but they are not present. They are not present in the body, and they think that God is not present, but in fact they are not present in the body. Something like that.
Yes.
What I want to ask is, how would you define the presence of God?
With words, you mean?
That's limited.
Yeah.
Limited, right?
Actually, I read a quote about faith here the other day, and it said, to a believer, I don't have to explain, and to a non-believer it's impossible to explain. And I guess the presence of God is an experience I experience inside my body, soul, spirit. But I can express with words consequences when I experience the presence of God. I sometimes try to explain the actual presence of God as well, but it moves something inside me, so it is mostly my own feelings I'm talking about, my own experience I'm talking about. I'm not talking about God or how God was, because it's my experience of how God. Usually not the same experience, but sometimes it takes me deep inside, where I can find peace and where it's totally quiet and beyond words and feelings and just nothing. And sometimes I get in touch with stuff that is not, that I dislike, and maybe God wants me to have a extra look at, so I can change some things. Or if I've done some wrongs, I have to take a look at. So it's very different how I experience God's presence.
From what you just said, that the feelings cannot be a reliable indicator, right? Feeling pleasant doesn't mean that it's from God. Feeling unpleasant doesn't mean that it's from God either, right? So for some lay people, can we come up with some kind of reliable criterion? Or
some people have tried to come up with some reliable criteria, like simple stuff. If it makes you feel peace, then it's from God, and if it makes you feel disturbed, it's not from God. But sometimes the Spirit also needs to stir up your spirit so you can wake up. And we have this: if it leads to consolation, it's from God, and if it leads to desolation, it's not from God. Maybe that's some criteria, and look at the fruits. If it gives fruits, but then you have to have a hindsight and look back, like 1 year before, or so it's difficult to have this absolute criteria, because it's so many aspects and so difficult to analyze. And so, do you have any distinct criteria that works every time?
I think that's a very simplistic kind of question that I'm trying to ask. But I think if I can say that it's from God, if that experience is from God, I would tend to think that it kind of opens up. It's kind of something larger, something I experience more than before. As long as there's something more, something larger, and that opened up myself, and I would think that might be from God. I mean that there might be a possibility that the more I see, the more I experience this world, the more I'm aware of myself and the world and people around me, I may be more aware of God's footprints He's doing in my life, instead of shutting myself up. What do you think?
When God is at work, I open up to my surroundings and not only see myself, and my fear vanish, and my selfishness goes away. So when I feel at right with myself, and I feel balanced, and I feel whole, and I feel open, then God is at work. And when I sometimes just feel something is present but is difficult to define, it's just a sense of holy. Because now I use the word holy. What does that mean? It's just a word that I try to define something, the presence I sense. So for me it's difficult to try, because then the words are poor. The words is not rich enough to define this sensation or this feeling or what I sense. But the consequences of the presence of God, that's something else. That's when we talk about, you know, openness, peace, and stuff like that, wholeness. So, but the actual presence of God is difficult, because it's like communication. It's not still. It's emotion. It's like the nature of the plants. It's how can you explain how the plants are communicating? How can you explain the God's eternal power is possible to see through nature? So it's difficult, but me, I get feelings like being whole, being present, being home.
Thanks for sharing that. As you are talking, I get some kind of pictures of fragments in our life. That it feels like we are getting some kind of fragments in our life, and sometimes we hold on to certain fragments and think, okay, that's enough. That's all my life here. The more we hold on to that kind of fragments, no matter this power, this money, sex, or whatever, we actually diminish ourselves and become smaller and less whole. And the more that we experience other kinds of fragments, you know, if God is present in different fragments, it can be that big, it can be that small, in every single detail in our life. A little bit more open and see this fragment and that fragment. I kind of putting that picture of wholeness together more and more. And I feel more closer, one step closer to God, which is the wholeness.
It's a good picture. I recognize myself in that picture. Because when God is working, when I notice that God is present, then it's like that as well. It's the last brick come in place, that I can see the picture, and the picture is, you know, the whole, and it's me, and I can feel that now it's on the right path. This is the right thing, and the picture is whole, and that's a beautiful experience.
It's kind of a reminiscence of a Jewish myth. That story, you know, the broken vessel and the fragments all over the places, and we're in a process of bringing those fragments together, and one day it will be God and become whole. It's a healing process for us, for the whole universe, for humankind. You remember that?
Yes. Picking the bones together and put the bones on.
Yes.
This is like almost when I do like this, I feel that all the fragments all around in space are coming together and makes me whole. So it's like I gather all the fragments from everywhere and I put them together and I just help them to come. to be in one piece.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the transformation process.
Modern people living in metropolitan city like Hong Kong, even Oslo, people are hard pressed, under pressure, and they experience anxiety and fear. I know that in your book, Listening to God, you in some way that you address the worries, the anxiety, the stress. I would like to hear how you understand anxiety. Can we eliminate it in our life by your spiritual practice, or you have a very different notion?
Eliminate, it's actually not one of my goals to eliminate. When I was doing martial arts, that was one of my goals, to eliminate the danger, so it would not hurt me. But if I am afraid of being hurt, then I defend myself and I'm closed and I attack. So I don't believe to eliminate the fear or to go to battle with my thoughts or with the fear. I believe in to observe its presence and observe and accept that it is here, and try to cope, how to live with it and how to deal with this. And then we have different methods in how to cope with it, and how can I bring this, my fears, to God, my anxiety to God, and how can I invite God into my anxiety, and how can this be a part of my relation with God, and what does God communicate in this situation. So if this eliminates the anxiety, or if this makes the anxiety not troubling me anymore, then it's what it is. But I don't go to battle like that anymore. Yeah. Sometimes I have to battle with my own laziness, or my greediness, or that I really have to to be disciplined. But I don't think I would use the word eliminate.
People tend to ask these kind of questions too. They tend to find some kind of like medicine or whatever, solution to really solve this problem once and for all.
Pill.
Yes, and I'm glad that you did not fall into this kind of trap. I read some Kierkegaard, the Danish theologian Kierkegaard.
Yes.
And he talks about anxiety, and anxiety is something that we live with. As we are human beings, as long as we live, we have anxiety. It's in some way that it talks about, indicates our dependence on God. We cannot do away with God, because there are uncertainties in our life. And also anxieties, according to Kierkegaard, indicates that we dread what we desire. Especially when you want that thing, you feel anxious. We want to approach to get that thing, you feel anxious, because this is the very time that you feel your potentiality. You can exercise your freedom to choose to get it or not to get it, to be or not to be. and this is a very anxiety-provoking situation.
Yes.
And this is what we have to learn to live as a Christian, as we facing this kind of unknown situation, or we don't know what will happen if I choose A or B. I don't know what the circumstances may like. But we have to approach it by faith.
Yes.
And take that kind of risk, just because this is unknown. I need to trust God.
That's why the present moment is so important. That's why Jesus is talking about. He knows that we cannot carry the burden, all our future burdens on our shoulders. So be in the present moment. He's talking about.
Yes.
Because if we start to think about the consequences or the choices, if I choose A or if I choose B, if I start to think and worry, then it will be impossible to be on this path with God, because it's a scary path to walk on. This this inner pilgrimage.
Yes. Many people try to shield themselves with a lot of protection, like housing, money, fame, so that they don't need to go into that inner pilgrimage. They don't need to face that sheer anxiety.
Yes. We have in Norway, we have these mythologies, or we have these fairy tales, and there's the troll. We have in Norway, we have troll, like you have maybe the dragon, and we have trolls like the beasts, the demons of these wrong thoughts and illusions.
Okay.
So you have to battle your demons, or you have to be friend with your demons to enter this holy kingdom. So when you are on this whole inner pilgrimage, you will meet all your inner demons. But the trolls in the Norwegian mythology, they birth when they come into the light, and then they are not dangerous anymore. So that's the story is, if you face your inner demons and then you put them into light, and they will disappear, and they will not be scary anymore, or they will not trouble you anymore, and they will be your friend. So we have all these fairy tales in the Norwegian ancient history that is a mirror of this Christian transforming pilgrimage. It's very interesting.
Yes, because we are both practitioners. I would like you to clarify what you mean by bring that into light in practice. How you do that?
If I'm sitting still, just be and wait and not, do nothing. Maybe some things come up into my memory, maybe it's something, maybe it's a wound, somebody rejected me, for instance. So then I have this choice. What do I do? Do I start thinking about something else just to run away? Or am I able to be present in my breathing and be present in my center and allow this wound to appear? So if I allow this to come up and be conscious of this, then it's a way of bringing it to the light. Not suppress or put it under the couch. That's easy. Or not just detain it, but to accept that it is actual something in me. And then I'll, you know, accept it, and this is real. And I do not fly away or suppress, but it is real. And then it's like bringing it into the light inside me at the same time when I am with God and I invite God to sit down with this wound. So then we have this maybe silent conversation, this thoughts or wounds or this pain, feeling of pain. We have this sit down with God, who is light, and me, and this pain. And then bringing it to light by inviting God in this. Because when I meditate, it's a continuous invitation from God and from me. So we are in this big yes, God's yes to me, and my yes to God's yes to me. So when something pain arises, then it arises in this relation between God and me, and this when God and me, when we are united, it arises in this, and then we allow it to be in this light.
That's good. I want to clarify one thing, because you mentioned bodily prayer, bodily exercise, and we talked about the body as the temple of the spirit. Do you agree that as we open up ourselves bodily to embrace all this in the light of God, that temple of the spirit, which is our body, is able to tolerate those things that we were not able to tolerate with the engagement more of our body?
I believe so. It's well put. It's very well, your words and how you describe it.
Yeah, I just get it from you. That's kind of like inspiration from what you share.
Yeah, I believe so. That my body as well will be more able to embrace, because the anxiety, it's in my body as well. Like I'm a little bit closed. So I believe my body also will be more open as my heart opens up.
If you do prayer like this and there's some, you open up yourself more and more.
Yes.
That's shrinking, restricting, constraining yourself.
But then you also have to be aware, if you want to have prayers like this and stand like this, it's important to be aware that it maybe you will feel fragile or weak, because here in this position you open yourself to the environments, you open yourself to yourself, and that is sometimes a little bit scary, because if you're not used to open and you suddenly start to do like this and you enter into your heart, maybe deep into your heart, and that for some people is a little bit not only scary but a little bit like they come into being a child again, and totally open child, and that is something we also should protect.
They feel very vulnerable, right?
Vulnerable, yeah, that was the word I was looking for, thank you. Yes.
Yes, so do you have any advice for these people going through this?
My advice is to pay attention to your limitations and pay attention to where you're at the moment, because one day maybe it's totally fine to be like this because you are, well planted on the earth and you are in balance, but another day you maybe not be in that balance. So maybe this is good enough, or maybe you feel that day is good to embrace and to preserve and protect, and another day is better to, today I want to open up and I want to receive, even if I'm feeling very fragile, vulnerable, fragmented, but I want, and help me God, open me up to you God, open me up to you God. So it's just different approaches, and it's important, as we were talking about, it's important to pay attention to my body limits and my soul limits as well. Where am I at today, right now?
Yes.
And sometimes it's good to stretch a little bit, and sometimes to you know, to pass your comfort zone. And sometimes it's good to be inside, to retreat. Yeah.
You know, as I'm talking to you, I feel some kind of energy going between us, and it's kind of energizing. I mean that that kind of sharing with you. You know, I feel that I feel more alive. Maybe you feel more alive as well. You know, that's a very interesting dance together.
Yes, it's because I believe also that you have some interesting words that you say. It's dance. That's how I feel it as well. That we connect, and it's not only because of the words that we connect. It's something else as well. Maybe it's our common faith.
Yeah, or experiences.
Experiences.
Our own or our clients, retreatants' experiences all come up together, and this human's destiny or our the difficulties we all face.
And I'm from Europe, and you're from Hong Kong, and different traditions, but still it's possible to connect heart and heart, and to create this passage where it's possible and safe, open up and be in this dance.
Yes.
I have to ask you one question that many people in Europe ask me, and you have you have answered it a little bit, but I have to, so you can address my European students.
Okay, I need to fasten my seatbelt.
Yes. Lower your shoulders and relax. Here he comes. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, and I want you to address my European students. So my question is, can I, as a Christian, practice Tai Chi?
Yes and no.
Oh, thank you.
Firstly, you need to know where you are, I think, to respect your theology. I think many people want to get a simple answer from us. I tend not to give simple answer. Yes and no is very paradoxical. For some people, they have some traditional upbringing, traditional theologies, and I'm not saying that those are bad theologies, and every theology has its limitation. But if your theology doesn't allow you to do that, and you feel bad when you just think about that and think about yourself doing that, you feel guilty. It brings some kind of disharmony in yourself. You know, I would advise these kind of people not to do Tai Chi, but before that, you better think through your theology. You know, whether Tai Chi itself is against your Christian faith. Actually, among Catholic circles in Chinese society, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, and also in China, they there are some Christians and priests, they already written how to do Tai Chi spirituality. You know, theologically, there are some publications. In Taoism, we have one Chinese book. It's Tai Chi spirituality, actually, written by a deacon in Catholic Church. According to what he wrote in that book, that God, our Trinitarian God, can be understood in that Tai Chi symbol, black and white, yin and yang, that kind of intermingling, interpenetrating symbol. Our Trinitarian God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, they are together. They are one. They are three, but they are still one. They are like taking different roles, different functions, but they are still one. It's just like yin and yang. One Catholic priest wrote that this is how Chinese people understand Trinitarian theology. If you ask a very Chinese people, influenced very much by Taoism, Tai Chi is the core. That maybe using the Tai Chi symbol would help them understand, if not totally, at least to get close to the Trinitarian God. It can be very flexible, can be very paradoxical, but it exists together. And talking about Jesus, he's really a very paradoxical figure. 100% human, 100% God. How can you figure it out by reason? No way. We cannot. But this is how we believe, what we believe. This is a no answer. The yes answer is, if your theology allows it. This only enriches you, only bring more wholeness to your faith, to your relationship with yourself, with God, and hopefully with other people around you. I would say yes, if your theology allow this room. Just go ahead. It won't have much judgmental effects to your faith. Over the years, I think this helps me. Basically, it helps me. And I still claim myself a Christian. I will not claim myself other faith believer.
Did it actually draw you closer to God?
I think so, yes. And be a more Chinese Christian. I don't deny, on one hand, I don't deny I am a Chinese. I like my traditions. Some of my traditions are very good. Tai Chi is one of those. And on the other hand, even though Christianity is from the West, I like Jesus. And the church helped me a lot over the years. And this is something that I have to acknowledge and bring them together. And then I don't feel like I'm split. Half Chinese, half Christian, and it never comes together. No, for me, there's one whole piece. And God gave me through Chinese culture. It may be a common revelation, general revelation. And this is special revelation from Jesus Christ, the Son of God, reveals the truth of salvation to us. Bring them together. And I don't find they are contradicting to each other at all. Øyvind, I really appreciate the time that you spend with us, with me, and this conversation is like sharing the treasures we all have. And I feel like I draw out your treasure and you draw out my treasures. And in this moment that the encounter is just so rich. I'm so grateful.
Me too. Receiving and giving.
Yes, yes.
It's good.
It's a communion.
It's a blessing for me to be here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.